All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Biohacking Congress. If everybody can just take a minute and just make sure we have hands again, move your arms a little bit. Go ahead. Little audience participation. I know you hate it. Let your hands go all the way up. Give them a little shimmy. That's called a jazz hand. Let it float down to your heart. And if you could just close your eyes for a second and just be with my voice, just for a moment. Maybe the sun gave me the power, for I could swim Loch Lomond and be home in half an hour. Maybe the air gave me the drive, for I'm all aglow and alive. Ladies and gentlemen, did you feel a shift in your body? Did you feel anything change from the act of a musical note that was sung? Well, I just want to speak to you. I do have a qualification to be at the Biohacking Congress, and I do work for a company called Amp Coil. I'm a biohacker. I have a podcast. I have to say my big skill set is 76% project management, public speaking 86%, but I'm 100% Broadway music theater. And what we just did, we experienced song. And it's easy to get into the world of frequency and delivery and music and the therapy of bioacoustics, but it's also important to remember that frequency is simply how frequently the wave travels from tip to trough. I believe there are healing in words and the understanding of the words we use beyond anything else, really, at the end of the day. And that song was a 16-bar cut from my music book that I used to audition for Broadway shows. And I went to New York City in 2001 to be a Broadway performer, and I landed with $300 in my wallet, and I booked my first Broadway tour. Annie, get your gun. I started a beautiful career that just literally took off from day one and started to climb through New York City. Shows, touring around the country, my union card. My life was incredible. I was living a dream storybook, a one in a million dream shot to be a Broadway performer until life took a turn. And in 2007, I was diagnosed with testicular cancer. I found out I had cancer, and shortly after, I found out that not only did I have testicular cancer, but it had metastasized to over 9 tumors in my abdomen. My left kidney, my superior vena cava going to my heart. I remember sitting there on an operating table, and a doctor looked down at me, and I was so scared looking at that CAT scan. You can imagine, talk about a left turn that you just don't plan for. And incredibly enough, I had incredible surgeons. I went and did as much chemotherapy as you could do. I did a surgery called a retroperitoneal lymph node dissection, where we go from pelvis to sternum. We take out all the organs. We take out the cancer. We put everything back in. And a year later, I was declared cancer-free. And in that moment, I said, this is where I'm calling Oprah. I'm going to get a book. I'm going to be the poster child for every other guy going through testicular cancer. And that wasn't the case. The case was, over the next 12 years, I did 5 more surgeries. My intestine continued to twist and bind. I'd be rushed to the emergency room, and they would take out another foot of intestine. And then my immune system crashed. And then I developed chronic fatigue syndrome. And then they found Lyme disease and heavy metal toxicity. And the list goes on and on and on. I started looking to the fringe because allopathic medicine looked me in the face one day and they said, we will not touch you until you come into the ER again because you are a liability. And I remember how bad that hurt. I can still feel that hurt. But I started asking different questions. I wanted different answers. I wanted solutions. So I started looking at things like ozone therapy, photobiomodulation, infrared saunas, coffee enemas, hypoxic breathing machines, cold therapy, hot therapy, cupping, electromagnetic stim, herbal regimens, PRP therapy, urine therapy, liver cleanses, gallbladder flushes, inversion therapy, dry fasting, water fasting, keto, paleo, vegetarian, pescatarian diets, biofeedback, bioresonance, scanner therapy. The list goes on and on. This is a partial list. I had 2 more cards. Honest. I do a podcast on this because I became very passionate about the things that work, but even more passionate about why things didn't work on me. why I was so heartbroken and why I was so broken for so long. I have a podcast called the Beautifully Broken Podcast, and that is the story I tell. Today, I am functional enough for a bathroom selfie. I run the sales and education for AmpCoil. I have a hit podcast that is over 109 episodes. I can travel around the country. I can eat any food I want to eat. I can do inverted sit-ups. I can climb a mountain. I can go snowboarding. I am incredibly functional. It is beyond a storybook recovery. I went from budding performer on meteoric rise to cancer, chronic illness, 10 years of surgery. I put myself back into the touring company of Phantom of the Opera on Broadway. It was... Go ahead. I'll take that applause. And so I have to say, things started to shift for me when I started looking at energy and frequency and magnetics. And I was at a gym one day, dragging my ass up a treadmill, and I saw a YouTube video about this system called AmpCoil. And I remember watching it. I got off the treadmill, and I walked to the corner of the gym, and I pulled out my credit card, and I bought one. Didn't try it. I just had this feeling. I was like, I need to work with energy and magnetics. This is going to help me. And essentially, AmpCoil is a wellness tool. We work with the energetic body, and it combines elements of pulsed electromagnetic field, elements of frequency, and software to deliver and stimulate natural recovery processes in the body. It's this blend of all these different technologies, and I got this system, and all of a sudden, within 3 months, I wasn't going to the emergency room anymore. Nothing had helped me. And I had done all that whole list. Nothing. It just stopped. And so I called the company. I was like, I want to be a part of whatever you're doing. Why is this working? And the reason why it's working is because I make a magnetic field, roughly 4 foot in diameter, coming strongest from the heart. Some of the science has been quantified from the Heart Math Institute. We have a magnetic field generated from each individual cell that we can measure with an MEG or an MCG. And interestingly enough, I have a north and south pole. My field oscillates and flips polarities at different times in the day. If we look at the popular science and how magnetics, pulsed electromagnetics, is used to make an improvement in biological tissue in the body, you know, we can look to Bryant Myers, we can look to Dr. Pollack. You've all heard them on podcasts before. But if you were to niche down what they're really saying, there's like 5 principles. Number 1, it helps to recharge the transmembrane potential, increase ATP, enhance sodium-potassium pump. PEMF increases cellular pH, and it improves oxygen uptake. So if we go all the way back to high school chemistry and physics, what I'd like you to understand is a cell has a net positive and a negative. Positive on the outside, negative on the inside. And the positive on the outside acts like trying to push 2 positive ends of a battery together. They repel. So we can watch all our red blood cells when they're properly charged and have a good transmembrane potential push away. There's all this room and space, and they look healthy. If you've ever seen live blood cell microscopy and they pull your red blood and they look at it, sometimes the cells are stacked. That is a physical or a visual representation of a low transmembrane potential, from my understanding. And so we get all these benefits of pulsed electromagnetic field. AmpCoil uses lots of different things in the magic. We use 30.7% of acoustical magnetic delivery. We use 26.3% for customized frequency journeys. We have 21.9% of bioresonance, 13.2% for software interface, which we're known for, and then 7.9% for magic and woo-woo. I say that with a little bit of the tongue in the cheek, and that's real. If we try to quantify or explain or really go into the depths of dark matter in reality, we don't have a clue. We don't know. We think we know. And so what I would like us to entertain, and the idea of experts, right? Do we need to be an expert to talk about something? I don't know. Can we have a personal experience? Can we leave room for things that we don't know and don't understand? Because I think when we drop the ego and we leave a little space for magic, magical shit happens to the body. So let's just talk about the biofield, because I want to make space for those of us who want the little granular things of science, right? I want to talk about the bioenergetic field. So in 1994, a panel of scientists at the National Institute of Health, NIH, chose the word biofield to describe the field of energy and information that surrounds and interpenetrates the human body. A field of information that surrounds the body. That first time I read that, I was like, huh. So the biofield paradigm, in contrast to this reductionist, chemistry-centered viewpoint, it emphasizes the informational content of a biological process, taking note that the biofield interactions are thought to operate with what? Low energy, subtle processes, or weak, non-thermal electromagnetic fields. Cells communicate through pulsed energy. And we've looked at this in different ways to find this and see this in the body. So a biofield, I want to just get a mental picture for this. For me, it's helpful with pictures. So when I say biofield, and we can dump that whole first part, whether we're looking at the level of a biophoton from a cell, or we're talking about patterns of cell membranes at resting potential, or the EEG of a brain, right? We can do an EEG and get information off a brain as the collection of the field. It's giving us how well are you performing today from an EEG. Or the ECG from the heart, the field of the heart gives us information. We can tell how healthy or how happy it is. Or the synchronistic movements of birds in a flight. Now that's the big one for me. I think about a swarm or a pack or a flock of birds going left and right. Everybody's not saying, guys, let's go left, let's go right. They're accessing the field of information, and you watch these flocks turn and twist. Or another good one is fish in the ocean, these schools, and they swim, and you see a shark go through and they swarm back together because they're accessing information from the field. Another way to say it, the force is not a power that you have. It's not about lifting rocks. It's the energy between all things, a tension, a balance that binds the universe together. Isn't it wild that reality is overlapping with Star Wars? You have no idea the phone calls I had to make to use that last slide. It was incredible, but I pull strings for Mick and Julia. What I'd like to say is also energy. You know, I think about a potato. We can put a penny and a zinc screw in a potato, boiled potato, and we have enough chemical interactions and positive and negative charges and ions to power a light bulb. Scientists now know how to use that potato and harness through the right wiring to power a laptop. Incidentally, running the charge and generating the light has an antibacterial, antimicrobial effect in the potato, which they're now applying to joint replacements so we can fight off infection just by the nature and structure of that chemical implant. So the human biofield, I want to say a Tibetan Buddhist, a neurologist, a Reiki practitioner, a cellular biologist, and a quantum physicist walk into a bar. There was a joke there that I never came up with. Couldn't figure it out. I wanted it. But seriously, the Tibetan Buddhist and the neurologist and the Reiki practitioner and the cellular biologist and the quantum physicist, they enrich us. They bring us closer to a complete understanding of this emerging concept of this biofield. What is energy? What is healing? It's like the person with treatment-resistant depression that goes to see only a psychologist, and we know through severe gut dysfunction, they're not making the neurotransmitters they need to be happy, so we can talk that problem till it's blue in the face. Everybody needs to come to the table to change the way we're interacting as a global community right now. We are the ones that we're waiting for. We're the ones we're waiting for, guys. I just want to remind us. Another example of science, on the left is the Rose Window from York Minster. On the right is a view of a log, the access of a DNA double helix strand, 13th century today. I just want to offer that information is garnished from the field at sometimes. We get information from chanting, from heightened states of consciousness, increasing gamma in the brain. Again, make space for that magic. We'll pivot back to amp coil. We'll talk about why this system, because I want you to understand, I want you to come see me for a demo and talk about it, is more than PEMF. I love PEMF, and it's just a little different. We are a bioacoustic magnetic field. The amp coil system uses sound frequencies to create a BAMF. We are a bioacoustic magnetic field. that is delivered through an electromagnetic coil, which is very unique and very individual to amp coil. That's really what we're doing. We're taking sound, we're turning it into an acoustical magnetic field, which has resonance with different areas of the body, the biological body. This is proprietary to this company. We're transferring information from the electromagnetic coil, from the tablet, to Barton or to Caitlin. We're putting the coil on the body, and it's very much like two tuning forks. We can both agree the two tuning forks, tuned to an A flat, are aluminum. Are they alive? No, they're not alive. We're going to strike one. We're going to get waves and particles moving through space, information or binary code, right? We're programming. This other tuning fork is going to pick up the information and start to sing in a healthy resonance. It's only going to sing that A flat because it knows its song. How magical are tuning forks? I mean, this universe, it's like packed with surprises. So we're using this resonance principle at amp coil. So at the cellular level, and just feel into this, because I want there to be a belief system around it, and I want you to have the love and understanding for this technology that I do. At a cellular level, all cells emit sound frequencies as a consequence of their metabolic processes. There's an interaction between the cell's sounds and those from the environment. So the resonance principle, when we're broadcasting software to the body, whatever frequency device you're using, that implies cellular absorption of a healing sound that are introduced, as well as their harmonics. So the resonance principle is engaged to reharmonize a cell that's been imprinted with a disruptive frequency. The disruption could be sexual trauma. It could be heavy metals. It could be microbes. It could be any type of an emotional trauma. And we're retuning when we're retoning. Do you remember the game Operation? Right? And you've got to pull the femur out or you're losing the game. If you don't get that broken bone out, that guy's going to die. And you'd hit the side. Dang! That's not what we're doing with resonance or frequency work. We're looking at an 80-person orchestra. The violin and the tuba are out of tune. So we don't ask those people to leave and tell them they're bad players. We tune the instrument, we give them a little direction, a little bit of instruction, and then we let the orchestra play again. And that's what we need to do with the body. We need to realize that you are way outnumbered microbes to human cells, 10 to 1. We could argue the microbes are running us. It's a very special relationship which we don't always honor. We try to kick the bad guys out. Understanding that what we're doing is just working with levels and restoring balance, because I always offer this to people that come in with that question. They're like, why can't I do this? I'm like, we're going to timeline you back to a time where that wasn't true. Because we might all have a big chunk of life where like, that was never a problem for me until it was. And from someone, N=1 experiment, who's gone through that and timeline back, I can tell you we can do it. So we're writing software for the body. That's it. That's what AmpCoil does. That's very unique. We write software for the body with a very simple, easy user interface. A sound journey, which you'll hear us say on AmpCoil, is a collection of specific frequencies in a specific order, amplitude, duration, and artistry that just supply information to the body. It's a complex example of the tuning fork. So a great example is Brain Reboot, which some of you have tried today. It's a 15-minute journey of resonant frequencies associated with different areas of the brain, neurotransmitters. And what I can tell you is, if we use a software like HRV Vital Scan, which Patrick Porter uses to scan predominant brainwave states, we can usually double certain states of the brain, whether that's working with Brain Reboot, which is really incredible. I've done over 250 scans. And this is just an example of a 15-minute session where a person came in and worked with me. They were 37% delta wave. Delta wave, delta, theta, alpha, beta, gamma. Delta is associated with sleep, 0 to 5 hertz. And really, from Dr. Patrick Porter's quote, we really shouldn't be above 13% delta in the middle of the day. That's a sleeping brain. So this is just after running Brain Reboot, and you can see that activation, short little 15-minute session. Here's another person, 64% delta. I have to say, over 250 people, that the trend is 75% of the people are sitting in delta, whether that's concussion, whether that's environmental toxicity. It's a very common pattern, but this person did exceptionally well and trained exceptionally well, all the way up to 10x their beta. And that beta, that alpha zone, is really that Johnny on the spot, word recall. I'm ready to step in front of people and do a presentation, which I just ran before this. Another one is Relax All. frequencies associated with emotions in the nervous system. Now, same software, HRV Vital Scan, allows us to scan 300 heartbeats over a 3 to 4 minute pattern and look at the time signature between each individual beat. Again, this person came in, case study, n equals 1, with a stress index of 750. The range is from 10 to 100. You can see here, over the X and Y axis, there's no deviation in the pattern on these heartbeats. And this is just after a 30-minute journey of running Relax All. We can see the variation. All of a sudden, the heart, the nervous system, is ready to break and throttle between the environmental stressors. Here's another one. Stress index, 141 down to a 59, so an 82-point reduction in stress just from running this Relax All journey. The body responds to sound very well. It responds to magnetics in a very favorable attribute. Here's one more example of just software for the body. We have an album called General Detox. General Detox deals with each individual organ system of the body. And those are just resonant frequencies or songs for specific areas. And what I can tell you after running circulation, during the pandemic, we had some time on our hands. So we brought some thermography specialists out to our amp coil ranch up in Connecticut, and we ran pre and post scans after 45 minutes of amp coil. Thermography looks at side-by-side temperature comparisons for that intensity. We can see in the prefrontal cortex on the left, and we can see this change in pattern on the right, where this inflammation really moved away. This is Dr. Piana who analyzed these scans. He was blown away by the pre and post. And if you've done an amp coil session or you've experienced this tech, people will often get up and say, what is this shift I'm feeling? What is this sort of amp coil magic glow? And that would be the physical representation. Here's another really astounding picture. We did 5 people. Everybody had incredible improvements even after 45 minutes. Thoracic spine, cervical spine, the red to the normalized pattern over here. Now, I'd like to show you some other case studies. This is an intense picture. On the left, one of my really good friends in New York City took a pot of hot coffee and dumped it down her leg. That's on the left, that's the skin bubbling. They had to scrape it off in the ER. She was extremely traumatized from the event, being passed around the emergency room without insurance. And I so calmly, I said, I'm coming to you. We're going to get you an amp coil, and you're going to be good. So here's what we did. We played Journeys, and they told her 6 to 8 weeks before they could undress the wounds. That's 17 days later. The skin grew back. So what we know is, again, n equals 1 experiment, is that the body often responds very well to resonant frequencies. So we have a journey called Jackets for skin. We ran the journey for circulation, and we just kept running pain release. So her body could go into that place where it was an auto-regulatory body, an auto-self-healing body. This is Sue Caldwell. We ran a couple pilot studies. I just want to say this. A big portion of the people that we work with and why the founders created AmpCoil was to provide solutions for people struggling with biotoxin illness, Lyme, chronic fatigue, just people who could not get answers otherwhere because there's so many systems offline. So we've ran some pilot studies where we've done 12 weeks, 3 AmpCoil sessions a day over 3 months. And this is Sue Caldwell. Sue Caldwell, halfway through, she was covered with full body eczema. And all of a sudden, we got halfway through, and her eczema wasn't going away, and she was really frustrated because other people were seeing changes, and her eczema was not changing. We actually started to run a journey called Emotions 22, which is love giving, love receiving. And a week later, her skin cleared up. The body emotionally responded and allowed, and we know, so many of us know, that so many of these conditions can be rooted with a huge emotional component. This is my friend Terry. Terry was one of the sickest people I've ever seen in my life. Not only could she not attend the study, she actually came in late. People started our pilot study in Connecticut, and this woman couldn't drive, she couldn't walk. Full body convulsions. She was carried into the study. And it was at this point when I was watching this happen, I was actually pretty nervous. You know, it was a wellness tool, a non-medical device that we were working with someone that was struggling so hard. And what I can tell you is that from not being able to drive, not being able to work, being bedridden on the floor on the left, and what you can't see is all Terry's hair had fallen out. This is Terry after. She works full time. She's a barber. She can go grocery shopping. She can spend a full day out with her kids. And her husband has his wife back, and he's so happy, and we were a huge part of her journey to transformation. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. I'd love to take some questions. There was a lot of information that we went over. I want to say, such a fan of technology and biohacking and human optimization, that I am a believer wholeheartedly in what we are doing. And in this world with so many choices on what you can do and things, and I really, as much as I'm talking about amp coil, I'm not a product person. I'm a person. I want you to be the best possible example of who you could be, the best expression of who you could possibly be, whatever that is, whether it's fasting or deliberate cold exposure or amp coil or quantum biofeedback. I don't care. But I know what we do works. I know everything has a place at the table. And what I would say was, whether it's Pulse Centers of America or Healy or amp coil or the biocharger, whatever it is, that it's the energy behind the action, right? We have 3,000 people using this technology. I know it works. But we can also send 10 people off to Sweden and give them a $10,000 stem cell injection. We can have 5 people do great. We can have 5 people be non-responders. Not that the stem cells are bad, right? There's that. In my opinion, it's that player one scenario. We need community. We need people doing that together. So to just speak to this platform a little bit more about amp coil, it's technology, and there's 7 community Zoom calls a month, 7 support calls a month. There's emotional support calls. We have 5 people on the phones Monday through Friday that are there to support you emotionally and help you with technical support. It's a community experience. So that's part of the reason why we have the magic that we do, is because of the people who have come together and picked up people who have been dumped by the wayside, said, you can't heal, you can't heal, you can't heal. And we're holding people's hands. We're supporting them along the journey. So it's a magical company. I'm really, really proud to be a part of it. And at this time, I want to take your questions. It's impossible to shimmy and not smile. Yes? Hi. Yes. So the best thing I can say is we step up and we go through a pathway. So to start amp coil, I usually tell people we're going to use 2 weeks, 3 weeks, maybe a month of doing restorative, rejuvenating journeys, feel good, positivity, deep sleep, demo harmonizer, and then we would step into, we have an album called General Detox, which has resonant frequencies or sounds for every organ and organ system. And we go through those one at a time. And we ask people to take their time with this. That might take 4 months, 5 months, 6 months. And then we go into a further album. We have a cleanse album, which is a little more specific. And as far as I want to play this thing and get this result, it's really about figuring out your formula and leaning in and listening to your body. I can turn on the coil. I can stand back here. I can feel that it's on. I can feel what frequencies are shifting. I've done it for 3 years, but I'm just attuned to it. I don't need to hold a magnet anymore to tell you what frequencies are changing. I'm just very tapped in and very sensitive and energetically attuned. So with practice and doing all the things that you know to do as a biohacker, you will tune in and you'll start to learn what journeys are best for you. I do very well with Detox Assist, which opens up detox pathways. I went through biotoxin illness and Lyme, and I've done chemotherapy. I do very well with circulation 2, which is veins and circulation. I do very well with housing 15, which is tendons and ligaments, because that was an area of my body that was attacked through Lyme. So I've found my kind of special sauce. I know Caitlin, who works with Amp Coil, also has her special journeys. I know even my friend Kristen, who's used it, 6 weeks, 7 weeks. Kristen has her journeys where she'll say, wow, she'll comment on like how that was different or different areas of the body that activated. A lot of energy work, subtle energy, is tuning in and tapping in and clearing a little bit of the noise. I tell people when you do subtle energy work that it's turning off Netflix, It's being with just the coil. It's turning off the other noise and allowing your body to hear. Remember, it works through entrainment. So if I'm going to broadcast subtle, energetic, non-thermal fields to the body, I don't want another story going on. I don't want flickering pulse rates from I want to set this. I want to set the tone. Yeah.